It was my first year of university. I had just finished unpacking my belongings in my room when my family left. That same day, my roommate finally arrived, and from the start, I sensed he was the most socially inept person I had ever met. I introduced myself as Dan and extended my hand for a handshake. He paused, looked down at my arm as if confused, then laughed awkwardly and gave me a weak handshake, almost like a dead fish. He didn't even tell me his name during our handshake, so I had to ask. He was Dale. I attempted to make small talk, but he responded to my questions with simple yes or no answers, occasionally offering an awkward smile or laugh. Within minutes, we both sat on our beds, absorbed in our laptops, not speaking to each other. Frustrated, I planned to request a different roommate. Anyone would be better than Dale. At first, I thought Dale was just an awkward kid, but I soon realized he was much more than that. I met some other students on my floor, and they seemed cool, which was a relief. After exploring the campus on my first night, I returned to my dorm to find Dale in the same position as when I left. "What's up, Dale?" I asked, but he didn't respond. No surprise there. It was 9:30 p.m., and with nothing else to do, I turned off my lamp and went to bed. I didn't fall asleep right away, though. Dale was on his laptop until 3 a.m. When he finally closed it, I fell asleep quickly, only to wake up an hour later. The blinds were open, and moonlight flooded the room, illuminating Dale, who was sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and asked, "Dale, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered, "Sorry," and lay back down. The next morning, I woke up to find Dale had already left. It felt like the first time he had exited the room. It was Saturday, the first Saturday of the school year, filled with orientation activities and campus festivities. As my group walked past the school gardens during orientation, I overheard a couple of students asking, "What is that kid doing in there?" I looked and saw Dale literally sitting in the dirt behind some bushes, rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice. If she had, I'm sure she would have said something. I just walked by, eventually telling the two kids I overheard that he was my roommate, hoping to spark a conversation and make some friends. They apologized for me, and we all laughed, unsure if it was appropriate. I made friends with those two, and we planned to hang out that night. When I returned to my dorm, I learned the school had found another roommate for me. Things seemed to be turning around quickly. That night, I left to meet my new friends, but when I returned, I found Dale sitting in the desk chair facing the door. "Oh, hey, what's up?" I said. He replied with silence, very matter-of-factly. I sat down on my bed and opened my laptop, realizing I had forgotten to lock it. To my dismay, I discovered that all my emails had been opened, including some I hadn't even read. Several folders had also been accessed. Dale must have snooped through my laptop. When I asked him if he did, he loudly replied, "No," just half a second after I finished my question. I could read him like a book. This creepy kid had gone through my computer while I was out. I knew he had done it, but I didn't pursue it further. I was ready for bed, but as I searched for my pajamas, I felt like my clothes had been moved around too. I knew I would be out of there by the next day, so I said nothing. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of a zipper. I sat up and saw Dale on the floor, going through my bag. I turned on the lamp and confronted him. He feigned ignorance, claiming, "I think you have my toothbrush by mistake." It was the closest thing to wit I had seen from him up to that point. Still, I knew he was lying and sensed something was off, so I didn't confront him physically. The next day, I met my new roommate in the same building, and everything went well. On Sunday night, after having a decent conversation with my new roommate, who wasn't a social butterfly but was miles better than Dale, we both turned off our lights and went to bed. For the third night in a row, I woke up at an odd hour to a strange noise, a weird clicking sound. It wasn't consistent, but I heard it at least twice every 30 seconds. I got up, hoping to find something innocent, like a heavy bag pressing on a weak floorboard, or even a mouse. However, as I scoured the room, I realized the sound was coming from the other side of the door. The nightlight in the common area was always on, so when I looked through the peephole, I could see the top of someone's head standing outside our door. They were looking down, so I couldn't see their face, but I realized the clicking noises were coming from the doorknob. I was sure the person was trying to unlock the door. I dialed the campus police, and they arrived in under 5 minutes. Only then did I feel safe enough to open the door. To my surprise, I found the officers with Dale in cuffs. I had suspected it was him. I told them everything, that he was my former roommate who had gone through my stuff, prompting me to switch dorms, only to discover he was trying to break into my new room. They took him away. I don't know what happened to him after that. He may have been suspended or expelled. The rest of my university experience was like anyone else's, but the nightmarish encounter with Dale still occasionally pops into my mind. I attended Binghamton University for 2 years, where I quickly made a large group of friends, and we went out every weekend. One October weekend, when my group didn't have any big plans, 2 close friends and I decided to hang out at the school's nature preserve by the lake. There was a small clearing on the far side of the lake that was perfect for fires. Since it was far from the view of the school or campus security, students sometimes used it to smoke pot, drink, and indulge in other substances. It was a relatively unknown spot on campus, which we appreciated. That night, we brought a bunch of beers, lit a fire, and enjoyed what we referred to as a bro chat. As the night progressed, time flew by as the alcohol began to take effect. Eventually, we were laughing so hard that one of my friends ended up rolling on the ground in the leaves. That's when the other friend suddenly stopped laughing and said, "Shh." We all perked up and listened, hearing the crunching of leaves and branches in the distance. We quickly tossed our bottles into the lake, knowing we were all under 21 and that campus police occasionally patrolled the woods on weekends to catch students drinking. We stuffed the remaining beers into a backpack. I was moderately drunk, which heightened my paranoia, a feeling we likely all shared. The fire made us visible to anyone passing through the woods, but this spot was so remote that it was rare for anyone to wander that deep. It sounded like just one person was out there. A tree branch snapped nearby, sending a jolt of fear through us. None of us were confrontational, so we lacked the one person in the group who would confidently yell out to whoever was out there. Instead, we sat in silence, shushing each other. We heard someone circling us, walking in a C shape around our campsite. It felt eerily reminiscent of the movie The Blair Witch Project, as the sounds of cracking branches and crunching leaves echoed around us. We laughed nervously at first, but I soon became terrified of who or what it could be. Suddenly, a huge thud made all 3 of us jump. At first, I didn't comprehend what had happened, even though I saw the source of the sound. A branch had been thrown into the center of our fire pit. One of my friends took off running, while the other and I exchanged bewildered glances, unsure if this was a joke or something more sinister. Then, my friend screamed in pain as another branch struck him in the face. I grabbed the backpack, helped him up, and we sprinted back toward our dorm. When we reached the road separating the nature preserve from our dorm, we paused to catch our breath, but we realized whoever was out there was following us. As we heard footsteps approaching the road, we continued to run back to the dorm, and when we got to our floor, we found our other friend already in his room. We looked out the window toward the woods and saw someone pacing back and forth. Every time a car passed, they would retreat into the trees. Eventually, the person disappeared for good, never to be seen again. We resumed our drinking session in the dorm room, and within 10 minutes, we were all laughing about the incident. It wasn't until the next morning that we fully grasped how terrifying that experience had been. After that night, we avoided the woods after dark. This story takes place during the first week of school during my freshman year at the University of Iowa. I was just starting to get comfortable with my roommate, who was keen on rushing a fraternity. Rush week was starting the following week, but the parties began that Thursday. He didn't want to go alone, as it would be harder to meet people, so he asked me to join him. I happily agreed, even though I had no interest in rushing a fraternity. After all, I was attending a party school. My roommate wanted to attend a party at one of the lowest ranked frats, one that was probably underground too. His reasoning was to have a backup option in case the higher ranked frats didn't give him a bid. The frat house was located far from campus, in a rundown downtown area. When we arrived at the corner house, we would never have guessed it was a frat house if it weren't for the loud music and the cars parked everywhere. We knocked on the door and were greeted by a short, chubby guy in a sweat-stained white t-shirt holding a Solo cup. "Come on in," he said, ushering us into the dimly lit living room filled with about 50 guys. It was hot in there, and I think I saw maybe 2 girls, neither of whom was attractive. After 20 minutes of chatting with overweight foreigners who gave off antisocial vibes, I signaled my roommate that it was time to leave. However, a large group of guys by the door made us hesitate, so we lingered a bit longer. I continued drinking the cheap beer, downing 5 cups before feeling a buzz. A heavy-set guy approached me, handing me a small bottle and smirking. "That'll get you shit-faced," he said. I fake laughed and thanked him, expecting him to leave, but he watched me as if waiting for me to drink it. So I did. 2 shots of some kind of hard liquor. Things started to get blurry pretty quickly after that. I suddenly felt dizzy, and the room seemed to darken. That was the last thing I remembered before waking up in a dark room, lying in a bed. I heard muffled music behind closed doors, realizing I was still in the frat house. The room was very dark, but I could make out some furniture and a small closet door. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a plastic bag crumpling, as if someone had stepped on it. I bolted out of the room and down the stairs, back to the crowded living room. I found my roommate and pulled him out the front door, past the group of guys still standing in a circle. During the car ride back to campus, I told my roommate I believed I had been drugged. He almost called the cops, but I insisted it would be foolish and pointless. Then he asked an awkward question. Was I taken advantage of? I felt no pain, and my clothes were still intact, so I assumed not. When I checked the time, I realized I had only been out for about 10 minutes before waking up. Whatever the guy had given me must have been a dud, thank God. That was my college experience at an underground frat party, and it remains my scariest life experience. I had a single dorm during my first semester of sophomore year, located in a secluded corner of the floor. It was nice to have privacy while still being able to socialize with friends and invite them over. A few weeks into the semester, while studying for a biology exam, I was interrupted by a light tapping on the door. It was so soft that I almost didn't hear it. I yelled for someone to come in, but the door didn't open, so I got up to check. Nobody was there. I walked around the corner to look down the hall. Still no one. Someone was clearly trying to mess with me. I returned to my bed and continued studying with the door open, but nobody came back. The next night, shortly after turning off my lamp and getting into bed, the tapping returned, this time louder and more like knocking. I called out, "Who is it?" But the knocking stopped, and no one answered. I quickly got out of bed and opened the door, finding my small corridor empty. I sprinted down the hall and saw the back of someone disappearing around the far corner. I raced after them, turning into the next hallway, but the only door I saw at the end was a bathroom. I felt ready to confront whoever was playing this prank, so I pushed open the bathroom door with force. The light was off, so I turned it on, expecting to see someone hiding, but it was empty. My first instinct was to check the stalls, both of which were closed. I got down on my hands and knees to look under them and saw 2 heavy black boots under one stall door. I took a deep breath and pushed it open. I was confused. The boots sat on the floor, but no person was there. Then I heard a creepy giggle, not feminine or childish, but the unsettling laughter of an old crazy man. My confidence vanished, and I was terrified. I ran back to my room and shut the door, hopping back into bed and texting every friend I had, knowing they were probably asleep. The knocking happened one more time that night. I ignored it as it continued for about 30 seconds before whoever it was finally gave up. The next day, I spoke to everyone on my floor. Nobody else had heard the knocking, and everyone swore they weren't pranking me. They all seemed sincere. I still don't know why this person chose to harass me or who they were. Judging by the boots and the laughter, I suspect it was an older man, and that disturbs me.